So every problem can be solved with better communication, and that is why we look at being proactive with it. Let's talk about something called the fallacy of control. Start taking some notes if you'd like. You're never going to remember all this stuff. I want it to stay in your head for more than just a minute. The fallacy of control. Don't worry about spelling. The fallacy of control is that if you were in charge of everything, all problems would be solved. That's not exactly true. Of course, we also don't want to be in a position where somebody else is in charge all the time. What I want you to take away from this little bit is that there's a thing called the illusion of control. And the illusion of control can help you be proactive with your communication. A quick example, if you're in sales, give me a thumbs up or type it into chat. If you're in sales, you sell anything of any kind, give your company a plug, tell us what you sell. So if you're in sales, you want the client, the prospect, to think that they're in control. And you do that by asking them questions that offer choices. I'm glad you can meet. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better for you? Morning or afternoon? You give them the illusion that they're controlling what's happening, right? But make no mistake, if you're in sales, you're controlling everything that's happening. It's your sales meeting. It's your deal. You've sold this thing 1,000,000 times. They're only buying it for the first time. They're not in charge, you are. So it's the illusion of control. And you never use the illusion of control to take advantage of anybody. You never do it in a deceptive way. It's a little house of mirrors is all I'm saying. And I want you to be aware of that, okay? Okay, now, another bold statement. You can never, ever, ever change another person. That's one never and two evers. Write it down, write it in capital letters, and underline it. You cannot change other people. This is super, super important, because when you stop trying to change people, you let them be who they are, and you start realizing that the only thing that you can completely control, 3 things, write them down: your thoughts, your behavior, and your emotions. Those are your 3 things that you're completely in control of. They can go whichever direction you want them to go. And it's your behavior in the way of communication that helps shape what's happening. This is the idea. So you can't change people, but you can influence them, and that's where proactive communication comes in. We're going to talk about 2 forms of communication. First, verbal communication, then nonverbal communication. Verbal, then nonverbal. Okay, so nonverbals are body language, right? Body language. I'll give you a few examples. If you're talking to somebody and you tell them you're open to what they're saying, but you have your arms crossed or you have your hands on your hips, they're going to believe what you do over what you say. In other words, you're saying that you're open to them, but you're showing them that you're not, right? This is not congruent communication. You're not doing what you say and saying what you do. You're sending mixed messages, and that's your fault. That's not their fault. So you want to make sure you do what you say and say what you do. One easy way to demonstrate this, I usually do it on camera, but you'll be able to figure it out. It's called the thinker pose, and it's based on Rodin's statue, The Thinker. You all know that thinker statue where the figure is leaning forward with his hand, his head is resting on his hand, right? Now, this is something that you can do easily in conversation. All you do is move one of your hands. Do it with me right now. You move one of your hands to the lower part of your face, and you say something like, that's interesting. You see? And the other person immediately thinks that you're a good listener, which you probably are. But you're showing them that you're a good listener by doing the thinker pose. When I first heard this, I thought there's no way this can work. It's so corny and obvious. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, the thinker pose works. And this is a way to influence people, because the person you're talking to thinks you don't care about them, and then you start showing that you care about them, and now the world starts to line up. The communication wires start to vibrate a little bit. It's a great thing. Let's talk about verbals here. We're going to talk about 15 words. So I'm going to give you the 15 most powerful words you can use with another person. And this is cool because you want to work these into your conversation. It's a great way to improve your situation with other people. So I'm going to give them to you like this. The 5 most powerful, the 4, the 3, they add up to 15. And you can write them down. You can also find a video on this. If you search on YouTube, Angelo Caruso, 15 words, it will come right up. So here we go. The 5 most powerful words you can use with another person are, I am proud of you. I am proud of you. And you can find a way to say this. People sometimes have trouble finding our office. I'm proud of you. If you're a financial planner, a lot of people delay making this call and planning their retirement. And here you are being proactive about it. I'm proud of you. So you could say this to people. You just don't. The 4 most powerful words are, what is your opinion? We don't say this very much because people come to us because we're supposed to be the expert. So why would we ever ask the non-expert their opinion? And yet people want you to ask. They want to be considered. So it's a really cool thing to say to people. What is your opinion? What do you think? Those are the 4 words. The 3 most powerful are, will you please? I think sometimes when we text, it sounds like we're being a little, elite or dismissive to people. Just do PLS, man, please. It means a lot. The 2 most powerful words are thank you. I just got back from speaking at a financial services conference in Las Vegas, and I can think of 3 ways that I'm thanking people. The first way is I called the guy from the airport. Of course, he didn't pick up because he was busy, but I just said, hey, listen, I'm still smiling over our great event. Thank you very much for having me. At the airport, I filled out a thank you card that was pre-stamped in my bag, and I dropped it in the mail to him. So in 2 days, he's going to get a written thank you from me. And there was a guy that was there that referred the work to me, and I'm sending him this Paul McCartney book because he's a super huge Beatle fan. It was easy enough for me to order on Amazon. 3 distinct thank yous for hooking me up. I think it's super important to treat people well. And then the number 1 word, this is the 15th now, the number 1 word that you want to use with other people is their name. And a lot of us aren't good at remembering names, but you could be better at it with a few tips. I'll tell you again, there's a YouTube video that I'm doing that is on live right now on YouTube, Angelo Caruso, Remember Names, and it will come up and you can watch it. I'll give you a quick tip right now about names. When you repeat the name to the other person as soon as you meet them, nice to meet you, Leslie, right? Nice to meet you, Leslie. Leslie, what do you do? Leslie, have you been at this event long? I just got here. Right? A few minutes later, Leslie, I'm going to head to the bar. Would you like to get a drink? Or somebody comes up, Leslie, have you met Tom? Tom Leslie. That form of repetition is a really good way to remember people's names. So I highly encourage that you use it. Let's talk about 5 things not to say. I want you to get away from the word obviously. Can anybody tell me why? Go ahead and speak up. What's the matter with the word obviously?
Makes them feel that you think you're smarter than they are.
Yes, and it can come across as condescending. Excellent.
Right.
And so you, Carlo, got it. So what I want you to do is, if you just leave the word obviously out, right, then you don't take that chance of offending somebody. It's a pretty easy thing to do. I want you to stop saying no so harshly to people. There are over 50 ways to say no. No, not right now. No, not this time. No, how about next Friday? No, but I can get somebody to help you. There are a lot of ways to decline, and you don't have to be harsh about it, and you don't have to have it be interpreted as harsh. Another thing that you need to stop saying probably is yes, because we overcommit sometimes, and we get ourselves to a place where we're disappointing people. We're over-promising and under-delivering. Brittany's right, saying obviously is demeaning. It can be perceived as demeaning, even if you aren't demeaning. A 4th thing now, obviously no, yes. A 4th thing, if you're in customer service of any kind, you do not want to say, you're all set. Very important not to say, you're all set. Because you're all set, we're talking now about proactive communication, is the opposite of proactive communication. When you tell a customer that he's all set, it ends the conversation, right? I mean, think about this. It's like saying, I'm done with you now. You could push off, right? But if we don't say you're all set, which by the way is very common, what else could you say? Let's hear some samples from the attendees. What else could you say besides you're all set? Any ideas?
Everything's good. If you have any questions, give me a holler or.
Excellent. If you have any questions, we're good to go. You know, if you have any, unless you have any questions. How about this? Ask the question first. Do you have any questions? It's your first time with us. Do you have any other questions? Is there anything else I can do for you? I mean, it's not hard, but we live in a fast-paced society, so we default to the fastest thing, which is the ripcord that gets this person away from our counter right now. You're all set, right? But it ends the conversation. You'll never learn anything more about these nice people if you keep dismissing them. You with me? Thumbs up if you're with me. Okay. And the last thing I think not to do is, especially now, I mean, we're coming up on the election, 2 weeks away. Everybody's got an opinion about everything. And, you know, it's not important that you have an opinion about everything. You don't have to weigh in on everything, ladies and gentlemen. You can let some things just go, right? The world's not going to end if you don't tweet about something, right? So save your time for the most important relationships in your life and stop answering to the peanut gallery. That would be a good form of communication. Okay, let's move to something called persuasion. I want to hear from you if you are in sales of any kind, or if you do any kind of persuasion, like if you work on a team and you need to persuade the team to do something. If you could be a safety officer and you need everybody to be safe. You could be in a marriage and you want to convince your wife where you want to go on vacation, or the other direction, you want to convince your husband. So if you're in persuasion of any kind, thumbs up. Let's hear from you. The first thing, of course, is to stop talking so much and just listen to people. Just kind of pay attention. There's a lot of research about the fact that most of us, they're the thumbs up. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, C. Nelson. There's a lot of research about the fact that most of us think we're more observant than we really are. We all tend to kind of rate ourselves highly in things. A funny statistic, and it's a true one, that something like 78% of all drivers, 78% of all drivers feel they are better than average at driving. You know, it's statistically impossible, right? Impossible. It doesn't pencil out. But we all think we're great drivers. So we're not as good with details as we think we are, and so that we tend to talk too much and not listen enough. So that would be the first thing. Also, if you're selling, I think that you should consider selling more slowly, because again, we're trying to move people through the pipeline as fast as possible, almost like cattle. You know, move along now. You know, you should be closing now. Whether you're ready to close or not, I'm going to ask you to purchase. And by moving so fast, we turn people off. So I want you to consider selling more slowly. A third tip is something called the question sandwich. And the question sandwich works like this. At the beginning of a sales call, you want to ask what are called binary questions. Same thing if you're trying to convince your family where to go on vacation, right? You say, you don't say, where do you want to go on vacation? You say, it looks like we have a choice between two places, right? The binary question. Which one sounds best to you? And if they bring up a third option, that's fine. But you're already pointing them to two based on budget, schedule, all kinds of things. So the binary question can only be answered one of two ways. Tuesday or Wednesday, black or brown, morning or afternoon, right? And binary questions, like it's a great way to qualify somebody, is, you know, would you like to help with the ABC project? Yes or no? Because if you don't want to help, I don't need to go into my pitch. This is what we're saying. So you start with binary questions, and then in the middle of the presentation, or in the middle of the pitch, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, you move toward non-binary, which means open questions. And in open questions, what you're doing is getting people to, I just put the avatar back on, everybody. The open question, what you're doing is you're asking, you know, explain yourself. These are questions that cannot be answered with yes or no. They have to talk to you. And this is proactive, right? Because now you're getting them to talk to you by designing the questions that you ask, right? If you've ever talked to somebody and had trouble getting them to open up, it's not completely their fault. You might be asking the wrong questions. So by changing the question, you change the answer, and now you have more of a free exchange of the information. Pretty cool. And then at the end, when it's time to close it, decide. Okay, so so everybody's in agreement now, or most of us are in agreement now that we're going to go to vacation to New Orleans in December. Is everybody good? So that we're back to the yes or no again. Would you like to start your Culligan delivery on Monday? Does that sound good to you? And I say yes or no. If they say no, Monday's not good, I won't be here. It has to be Tuesday. Okay, now you close for Tuesday. But what's really great about this is this question sandwich. There's a real format to getting people to go along with you. I'm taking questions, so stop me at any time. Feel free to interrupt just like you would in real life if I was sitting across the desk from you. Michael, I have a question. Okay. I also think that you should get to, if you're selling professionally, you should get to something called a 10-word close. It's different for everybody, but you need to get to a place where you have that combination of words that works better than anything else to get people to say yes. And it's different. It's situational, right? My 10-word close is different than yours. But I think you need to have that in your back pocket, because a lot of times toward the end there, there's a lot going on and we get a little skittish and we start stumbling and we mess up our own deal. And people stop seeing how good we are for them, our products and services, because our message isn't crystal clear. So you need to get crystal clear, and I think it will help with proactive communication. And then finally, you can get people to go your way sometimes with just a secondary question. Let's say you need help setting up for an event, and nobody wants to help setting up for an event. It's a drag, right? But you say to them, we're going to have some special treats for you. And then you tell them a little bit about the treats. Maybe it's a home-cooked soup. Maybe it's a chocolate brownies, whatever it is. Hopefully it's something that they want, right? And then all you do is talk about the soup. And then they show up just for the soup. They're not really showing up for the soup. They're showing up to set up. But the soup was like the closing thing because it's so unusual. You see? It's excellent. And there's another phrase, an old axiom. I'll get to chat here for you in a minute. Thank you, Michael. There's an old axiom that if you need a bunch of people to collect wood to build a ship, don't harangue them about getting more wood. Keep telling them about the boat ride. You hear the difference? And they'll bring you wood. Keep telling them about the boat ride. Let's continue. This content is useful to you, yes? Thumbs up. Give me a comment that this is working for you. The best is yet to come here, because I'm going to help you with your specific problems. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, 42647. Okay. I want to turn you on to a concept called predictive dialogue. Predictive dialogue is amazing because it pre-scripts crucial conversations. I'm going to run it down with you. It's very easy to figure out. I'm going to do it in what could be known as a crucial conversation, and you'll understand this right away. Now, the premise of predictive dialogue is that it's a dance, and I'm going to lead the dance because I have an agenda with you. In this case, in this example, I'm going to apologize to you, and you're going to accept my apology. This is what I stayed up all night working on, right? And I want to fix our relationship, and I'm going to do it as soon as I see you in the morning, as soon as I see you sit down at your desk with your coffee. And here's how I'm going to do it. Now, I want you to listen to the dance and how it works, and you'll smile to yourself and see what I'm doing the whole time. So let's say I'm going to make up with Brittany, right? I've been having a rough time with Brittany, and here's how I'm going to make it up to her. I'm going to approach Brittany where she works, and I'm going to say, hey, Brittany, do you have a second? Now, that's a binary question. Brittany could say, no, I don't have a second, or she could say yes. Let's take the worst case scenario. She says, no, not for you, I don't, right? And then I go, okay, and then I walk away. Now, Brittany got her way, but now what do you think she's thinking? She's thinking, what did he want? I wonder what I'm missing. Mike's, not a terrible guy. Maybe I can help him with something. So the next time I ask her, maybe she's more likely to say yes. But again, I don't have control over other people, right? So I approach her again sometime. Brittany, do you have a second? Yes, I do, Michael. What's going on? I'm going to sit for a second, I said, because this is important. And I'll pull a chair up, right? Now, this sends a signal to Brittany. I'm going to be here for a minute. This is important. I don't do this standing up, and I certainly don't do it standing above her, because now I'm not leveraging what's called psychological equity. I don't want Brittany to think I'm talking down to her, so I lower myself. You can imagine this, right? And I'm sitting with her now, eyeball to eyeball, kneecap to kneecap. And Brittany's like, what's this all about, right? And then I very quickly say to her, I want to apologize. Open up your microphones. Brittany's here. Let's do it with Brittany. Brittany, I want to apologize. What would you say if I said that to you right now? Boy, she's really mad at me. She didn't want to play. Who wants to?
I have a microphone under.
Oh, there you are.
I'd be very cool with that.
All right, let's do somebody else. Who wants to do this with me? Michael Wall, you game?
I'm game, go ahead.
All right, so now I'm going to apologize to Michael. Michael, I want to apologize. What would you say in a normal situation, Michael?
I appreciate you taking the time
to
apologize for X.
Yeah, you might even say, apologize for what, right? It would be a reasonable thing to say. So notice how I'm leading the dance. I initiate the entire interaction. I sit down. This is going to be a minute. I say, I want to apologize. Michael says, for what? And now I answer him. Michael, we had a little exchange a couple days ago, and I was brusque with you. I have a lot going on at home. One of the kids is extremely sick. We were at the time we were talking about maybe even having to take him to the hospital, and I just couldn't release this from my mind, and I feel I was a little bit abrupt with you, and I want to apologize for that. Is that okay with you? And now what does Michael say if he's a reasonable person? Go ahead, Michael.
I appreciate you taking the time to share, and I understand that life's challenges get in the way sometimes of our daily activities.
That's exactly right. And you might ask how my kid is, right? Total, natural, predictive dialogue. That's what I'm teaching you right now. Predictive dialogue. It went right where I wanted it to go. And then I say to Michael, are we good? Can we start all over again? And he goes, yeah. And another great line, if you want to do this as an apology, proactive apology, listen to me carefully now. Here's the apology. I take 100% responsibility for what's happened between us. I take 100% responsibility. I sincerely apologize, and I'd like to start over. Is that okay with you? 4 lines. I take 100% responsibility. I sincerely apologize. Let's start over. Is that okay with you? And again, I'm ending with that binary, because if you don't want to start over, there's nothing I can do about it, right? If you want to hate me, I can't stop you from hating me. But now I've done the right thing. I've come to you. I've owned it. Not 50%, not 80%, 100%. There you go. Nicole's got all these summaries going for you. Excellent. I own it, and I'm deeply apologetic. Are we good? And often the person will say, let me think about it. You know, so that's fine. But at least you did what you could do, and that's being proactive. So well done. Okay. I want to, we're going to get to your questions here just shortly. And of course, at any time you have something that you want to share, please do. I want to talk now about first impressions, because first impressions are really dicey. I want to recommend a book to you. It's called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Thumbs up or a comment if you have read it already. Malcolm Gladwell talks about how we make judgments about people that we don't know, and we make assumptions about people we don't know or situations with new people, and then we step right in the cow pie, right? And we're in it, and then we can't get out of it, and sometimes it ends very, very badly. There's a famous story in the book about Sandra Bland, who was driving in Texas, was pulled over by a cop who probably didn't do what he should have done. And Sandra got super excited. What happens? She gets arrested. They put her in jail, and a bad thing happens. I won't spoil it for you. But all because of a traffic stop. It didn't have to go that way. And so most of us don't have those types of serious things happen to us every day. We have more minor things, little rumble strips and little bits of confusion, that cause problems with people. So I think that by taking better care of first impressions, we can clean this up. So I'm going to give you some tips for this. I want you to start focusing on what I call the first 15 seconds. And this is the first 15 seconds that you're in someone's presence, or the first 15 seconds that you are on the phone with somebody. Maybe it's a text, right? Or some sort of email exchange, 15 seconds. And you're going to pay strict attention to the signals that you're sending, and of course, strict attention to the signals that people are sending you. Because if you're hyper vigilant during that first few moments, if you're not acting reflexively, your situation improves a lot. And I think by some people call it the 2-second delay. Like somebody in the store says something to you and you feel that it was rude, and so you want to recapitulate and right away be rude to them. But what if you just take 2 more seconds? What if you think about it or just reflect for a second? Did he mean that? Is this as bad as I think it is? Is this something worth getting excited about? The answer is almost always, it's not worth it. Almost always. And one of the problems during the pandemic, is that we got super excited. We were all ratcheted up, and then we take it out on other people. And other people just thought the less of us because it didn't really merit all of the angst that we were demonstrating. We just were doing it because we were ratcheted up. So thankfully, a lot of that's subsiding, which is great news. I want you to start queuing up, please, your questions about your specific situation. You signed up for this program for a reason, and that's the payload here at the end. And sometimes you may not want to use a name of somebody, which is fine. But give us the hypothetical. Tell us. You're asking for a friend. And you just need a little bit of clarification on something, and I'm happy to do it. That's what we're leaving time for in this program. This is not a data dump. It's about helping you solve your specific stuff. Okay, let's move now to something called cognitive bias. Cognitive bias, thumbs up if you've ever heard of this. Excuse me, Daniel Kahneman, and thank you, Patty, and Effingham. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky won a Nobel Prize for this a few years back. There are about 150 cognitive biases. I'm just going to give you 3 of them today to get you turned on to the topic. But these are human heuristics, shortcuts, emotional shortcuts that get us in trouble all the time. And if you're aware of them, you can think like a psychologist, like, why do I want to say this to this person? Why do I want to do this now? It's not in my best interest. And then, of course, in hindsight, why did I say that? That didn't work at all. Or why did I act like that? I'm such an idiot. So I said earlier, you could solve almost any problem. You would never have to yell at yourself later on if you didn't screw up the first time, right? And the cognitive biases help us understand how this works. Now, 3 examples. And then we'll take some real life scenarios from you guys. The first one is called optimism bias. Optimism bias. In optimism bias, there are people in the world who are, I wouldn't say necessarily that they're wearing rose-colored glasses, but they think that everything's going to work out fine, and nothing really needs any attention because everything's going to work out fine. And of course we know that some things do need attention. Some things do need to be worked out. If you've got a big presentation coming up, you probably should practice the darn thing. It's probably not a good idea to think, oh, people are going to love me. I can wing it and I'll be fine. You probably should practice. So people with optimism bias think everything's going to turn out great, and they stop focusing on any effort, and it usually backfires on them. If there's an optimism bias, you can bet your bottom dollar there's a pessimism bias. And the pessimism bias says the opposite, that this is never going to work out. I should have never signed up for this. This is the worst, there's nothing that can save this, so I'm not even going to try, right? Or my boss hates me, therefore I'm going to stop talking to him. There's no point in talking to him or her, my boss, because my goose is cooked, right? And this is, without a question, wrong. Your boss in almost every situation wants you to succeed. And I know this because I've lived a good life, right? I'm a little older than you might think. And the other thing is I've had bosses that I thought hated me in the moment. And then in real time, of course, I'm thinking that's the most ridiculous thing. Think about this. I had a sales manager one time, and I thought she hated me. You know, I just thought she was sabotaging me at every turn, you know, at the time. And now, thinking back, I'm like, I was supposed to be making money to help her run a great company. My numbers were her numbers. Why would she sabotage me? Why would she keep me around, you know, allegedly to produce sales if she didn't want me to be successful? So what happened was I got inside my own head. I suffered from this pessimism bias, and it got the best of me. This stuff hits everybody, me too. And then finally, this thing called blindside bias. So blindside bias says that, you know, if blindside bias says that everybody has something they can't see, a weakness, an Achilles heel, right? But because you can't see it, you don't think it's important. Because you can't see it, you stop looking for it. Because you can't see it, you think it's not there. And it is there. And this belief that you have is so strong that a friend, a confidant, an advocate will say to you, what about this? Don't you think you should watch out for this? And you go, no, that's not a thing. This person that's watching out for you sees it, but you don't. And you disregard the advice because you take your own advice before you take somebody else's advice. We're always true to ourselves before we're true to other people or true to the facts, right? It's just human nature. But that's blindside bias in a nutshell. And you're probably thinking of examples of how you have gone through this in various situations. So let's open up the floor, man. I want to hear from you about real life scenarios. That's really where the juice is in this. The nectar of this type of a webinar is not somebody in another state, in my case, Michigan, telling you about, you know, hypothetical scenarios. I would think you want to put the Band-Aid right on the wound, right? Let's go to work right on the exact problem. So open up your microphones and talk to me, man. I may have some questions for you about your background or, you know, but other people will learn from this too. It can be something that's happening at work. It can be something that's happening at home. It can be something that hasn't happened yet that you're maybe worried about. Talk to me.
Well, I'd like to add a comment.
Yes, please, Patty.
This is Patty. So, and you know, right off the bat, I see myself with that optimism bias.
Okay.
And I do find it problematic in some of the processes that I run because I tend to feel that no matter what, you know, we can get through whatever comes our way.
Right.
But it does. I do recognize the impact that it has on others that surround me. That I am overly optimistic. So.
And Patty, quick background. Where are you working, or would you rather not say?
Oh no, you're fine. I work at Sarah Bush Lincoln, which I'm very proud of, and it's a great organization to work for.
Okay.
I have worked in human resources for a number of years, and I've just transitioned over to communications and PR work, which I ultimately enjoy.
Okay. And did you have something in particular that you wanted to talk about with regard to optimism bias, or is just a new awareness for you that you wanted to share?
You know, I think, you know, seeing it spelled out that way, you know, and seeing how it impacts others is always interesting to me. Because I do recognize that it can be a fault.
Yeah, I think you're right on. A quick little related anecdote, and I haven't ever shared this with anybody because it happened last night. when I'm in a hotel like I am now, I sometimes get some supplies because the hotel's super expensive normally. This is the Radisson Plaza in Kalamazoo, everybody. Big hotel here.
Been there.
Yeah, it's a really nice place. And a little inside pro tip, if you're ever staying here, you want to just walk 100 yards out the hotel to this place called the Kalamazoo Mall. And there's a city center deli, and you can buy all these supplies and take them back to your hotel room. So I knew about this place, and I went over there yesterday when I got here. And I was just chatting up the lady that was ringing up my stuff. It was she was in a super good mood, and we were just having some fun with each other. And I bought an orange because I just got back from speaking in the UK and I'm trying to beef up my vitamin C. I bought an orange, and then I went and I said I want to get another one because I'm here for 2 days. I'm going to have one on each day, right? Not orange juice, which has a lot of sugar, but the actual orange. And so I bring the second orange back to the counter, and she says to me in fun, "I don't judge." Now, you don't judge people anyway about whether or not they eat oranges. But she was saying, I don't judge. Well, she doesn't know this, but this is a little bit in my content because I do a bit about judgment versus observation. And so I'm in a good mood too, and she's playful, and I said, oh, come on, of course you judge. Everybody judges, which is part of my bit. So now I'm doing my little stand-up in front of this poor lady as she's ringing up my oranges. And she says, no, I really don't. I don't judge. And I said, come on now. And I think her name was Linda or something. I said, Linda, you're walking down a dark alley at night and there's a person at the other end of the alley. Please tell me you're judging that person. You know what she said to me, Patty? She said, no, I don't. And that's optimism bias, right?
That's huge.
You don't want to walk down it. I don't even walk down a dark alley without judging people. You just can't walk down a dark alley and think everything's going to be okay. It is naive. So that's an extreme example of, we're talking now about physical danger, staying out of physical danger. But there's all kinds of ways optimism bias plays into the situation. I know somebody right now who is a commissioned salesperson, but it's a startup company and she's not being paid by her boss because her boss says, we don't have the money to pay you yet. And she's good with the fact, right now, she's good with the fact that her boss is going to honor that commitment. How many months do you think she should be good with that IOU? Anybody? Because somebody might suggest she needs to draw a line in the sand and say to her boss, pay me or I'll have to go someplace else. And she's in that window now. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that. It's uncomfortable. At what point are you being taken advantage of? And then you need to get proactive. Thank you, Patty. And good luck with your new station in life with comms and PR. Who else has a real life scenario that we can look at? Something you might be struggling with at work. You might have a friend who's struggling. You're observing it. Maybe it's something that already happened that you learned a lesson from. Anybody? Stephanie, you got something? Oh yeah.
I can share. My personal side of life, but I was married, ended up being divorced. But then I think we just butted heads when it came to communication. We saw it two different ways.
Yep.
And I think now that I've been out of, I've been divorced for a while, and then moving forward in like other relationships, I've learned to, how you said, what was it? Like take a few seconds, like in the interaction.
Yes.
Like instead of the very first interaction thinking like, oh, he's angry, like getting pissed off at me.
Right.
I have to sit back and be like, okay, let it play out a little bit and let's see how it goes to see if I'm just taking it in a negative way because we butt heads so often. So now I've getting to the point where it's like, okay, just sit back, see how it goes, and then don't overreact. But then also I've learned, which is something my mom has always said, is that the more I distance myself in a situation, the guiltier I look, even if I'm not guilty of whatever,
Yeah.
Most of it's, an argument with my 5-year-old. So but we're very similar. And so now I'm like, okay, well, like you're arguing with yourself, like let him get his little rationale out,
Yeah.
and then talk about it. So
Yeah.
I think coming from a previous bad relationship and moving forward, looking at the way I interacted before versus now, and I feel a better communicator now because of my past.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing. Sometimes when we go through something traumatic, and by the way, I'm sorry for your divorce. When we go through something like that, it changes us, and it gives us a chance to see it in the rearview mirror instead of the windshield. When you're driving towards something, you have a much different feeling about it than when you're looking in the rearview mirror and it's already been passed, right? Already passed by. And so, yeah, the emotions run high in a moment like that. But I'll tell you something. I'm not making a personal prediction about your relationship, but a lot of people discover during the divorce process that the person they were married to really wasn't that bad. That it was a confluence of things. It was people that get married young, 19, 20. Maybe not ready for that relationship yet. It wasn't time, but they rushed into it. Sometimes there were money problems or other extenuating circumstances, children, illness, all these kinds of things. And then afterward, Nicole, the people realize this and they go, oh, we were better as a couple. Let's get back together again. And a surprising number of people actually get married again to the same person. Did you know that?
I will not be doing that. We are better off not together.
Like I said, I wasn't.
I get what you're saying.
Like I said, I wasn't predicting your future. But you start to think of the person in a different way later on. We have some close friends that are in trouble. I don't know how to say it. I say it with that little heuristic. They're in trouble, and I hope they're able to work it out because they're both good people. I mean, I love them both, but for some reason they don't see themselves like that anymore. One's become the enemy. And then they go into battle. You go into a divorce, you suit up, you get attorneys. It's very, very expensive to get a divorce, especially if there's any contesting going on from the other side. So it escalates and escalates, and before you know it, man, you're in a scenario that you never wanted to be in. Never. And your only choice now is to blame the other person. And this is the opposite of proactive communication. I mean, when you get to this stage, you're not owning anything, you're not in control of anything. Remember, we talked about control at the top of the call. So yeah, good for you, Nicole. I'm sure you're doing a lot of reflection, and I'm sure you've learned a ton from the journey. Thanks for sharing. How about Brittany or Ken or Nelson or Whitman? Is it Whitman? What you got? Talk to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Ladies first.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you guys didn't have sound on your computer, you type it in and I read it. So go ahead, Kim.
Very well. I don't know if this is necessarily helpful to the conversation, but I will tell you that the worst boss I ever had, the worst working experience I ever had, was somebody who I just could not communicate with.
Yeah.
Somebody who was very closed off. Somebody in particular who didn't understand sarcasm or have a sense of humor of any kind or any levity to him at all.
Right.
And I will tell you that even the people that you don't communicate with are an instructive experience, because I know that since moving on, I've had other bosses and people have said, oh, this boss is bad, this boss is whatever. But honestly, I've been able to communicate with them. To me, that's the real identifier of a bad boss, is if you can't communicate on some common level with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
and you pick up clues from that experience if you survive it, and it helps you communicate with other people better later down the road.
Yeah, I think it was Richard Feynman, the great physicist, who said, fail as fast as you can. Now, he was talking about experiments, right? Because when you fail, you learn what doesn't work, and then you can move on to more successful solutions. I think anybody can learn from their own mistakes. I've made it a habit of learning from other people's mistakes. But I agree with you, Ken. I want to learn from everything. I want to learn all the time about what works and what doesn't work. Life is too short to be mired in friction and conflict all the time. It's no fun.
It's funny, I heard a similar statement. I knew somebody who said that even if you work at Denny's and you're the best pancake maker that Denny's ever had, you've got 10,000 terrible pancakes that you've got to make first before you become the good pancake maker.
Of course,
so
yeah.
You just got to burn out those 10,000 bad pancakes as quickly as you can.
I think I've even had some of those bad pancakes at Denny's now that I'm thinking about it.
Michael, I might suggest that we are creatures of habit, so we get stuck into these methods of communication. So I appreciate the opportunity today for you to bring this to light, because this gives us a chance today to kind of break out of that paradigm a little bit, that once we've heard what you bring some of these things up, I should be more attentive to conversations coming in the future about ways to act, react, communicate, listen, etc.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's why I go to webinars, and that's why I go to events. I happened to speak at TEDx Detroit a couple of days ago, and I love those kind of days because it stops the clock. I get off the treadmill, and I get to be with people I'm not normally with, and all these great vetted speakers went on stage in only 8-minute increments, Michael. And, all the speakers weren't great, and not all of the messages resonated with me, but I love those kinds of days because, and webinars where I can really focus on something, because God knows there's enough bland content out there. I appreciate your comment today. Thank you. C. Nelson says in chat, I listen to my customers a lot, but what about the person who interrupts you when you're trying to respond to them and it appears that they aren't listening to you? Any ideas? Well, remember I said you can't change other people. So if you're with an interrupter, you want to teach them some manners, or you want to put them in their place, and these are interesting thoughts, but they're not realistic, right? They've been interrupting for decades. They've interrupted people far more important than you, right? So all you can hope for in your interchange, you say customers, I assume it's a business conversation. All you can hope for is that you can get their attention long enough to make your point, to establish clarity, fix the problem if it's a customer service complaint, close the sale if it's a sales thing. What I find, and I have met some of these people, C. Nelson, what I find is that being direct can help, but I'm always respectful when I do it. So I might say something like this. You came here to talk to me because you think I can solve this problem. Is that correct? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then I'm going to take a different tack. But if you say yes, I want you to solve this for me. Okay, so you came to hear me talk and contribute to this conversation. Yes. Okay, good. I'm going to speak for 60 seconds, and I need you to listen carefully. You see how I'm kind of like, I'm like really winnowing down here what's going to happen next. I didn't say stop. I didn't say let's have some give and take. That's like a general, really nice way to say it. I said, I'm going to talk now. I've been listening to you for 5 or 6 minutes. I took a lot of notes. And now to solve this problem for you, I'm going to speak for 60 seconds. Is that okay? Or how about this? Do I have your permission? And again, the guy gets a chance to say no. If he says no, it's fine. I've learned a lot of people, Nelson, complain without actually wanting to get a solution. So if he tells me he actually wants a solution, I say, I can help you. I'm going to talk for 60 seconds. I'm going to give you that solution, and you're going to be good to go. Do we have a deal? And the guy goes, yeah. Now, what he's done is he's tacitly agreed not to interrupt me. Now, I can't change him. If he just can't help himself at that 40-second mark, what do you think he does? He starts talking again. Now I can poke fun at him, right? I say, look at my watch. I say, it's only been 40 seconds. I might even start the clock. Okay, I'm starting now, right? At 40 seconds, he starts talking again and said, oh, you promised me, So we can have fun with it at that point. It's interesting that there's an old saying that emotion cripples rational discussion. Emotion cripples rational discussion. So when this person that interrupts a lot makes me angry, I'm done. I can't function anymore because now I'm angry. I'm insulted. He disrespected me, I get this kind of an attitude. And then it's all over with. I got to stay cool. And that's why I default to humor. Thank you, Michael. And it is 11 o'clock. We are going to wrap up. You've all been so nice. If you've got a 5-word review in text chat, please type it in. We'd love to see it. I'd love to get some feedback from you. I haven't seen your lovely faces this morning. And be sure you let the chamber know that this was a good program for you if that was the case, because Nicole and Lucinda worked really hard to get you guys good content. Thank you. Thank you, Slahan. Slahan, is that your last name? I appreciate you.